opposite. I have that gigantic gap.
Right.
11 years. So
Yeah.
that helps. It's like two only children, like they get their little attention. And that's it. Hey,
And
everybody, by the way, hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. Justin's here from Cleveland, and we're getting ready to talk about his trip this past spring, back in March, to Yacht Club and all kinds of stuff. And for everybody that's here, I apologize for my voice. I know I sound like I'm 10. This is all I've got. I'm trying to use the radio voice, and it is not coming. So it is not happening. I even came down here and like recorded a couple of things like, okay, can I get my voice deeper? Nope, this is it. Usually I turn on, like I hit the button and I'm like, welcome to the beer. Yeah, it's not happening. It's not turning on tonight. Okay, let's see here. There's Alfred with his Debbie Gibson little icon like that. Electric Youth to you. Yeah, I'm hanging in there, Alfred. It'll be better. Better days ahead. So I keep saying. Okay, so this is episode 1900. Nice and round. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, let's do it. Oh, wait. I got to hit this button here real quick. Too many buttons. Yeah, tweeted that out. And I got the show notes here. All right. Let's do this. Let's pretend like we know what's going on. Justin's a star, not Mike. Mike's hanging on. Here we go. Oh my gosh. Okay. 1900. Welcome to episode 1900 of the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rallman from BeOurGuestPodcast.com and one of the senior agents over at the Magic for Less Travel. Happy Monday to you. Hope you had a great weekend and you got to get outside and enjoy some time with friends and family. That's why the weekends are there. But again, some of us work over the weekends. Maybe you got your hustle on and had to work over the weekend. Hope it was a great one either way. But it's time to get back to work and head out the door to school or, maybe to your job. And we're going to do that with a virtual trip report as we've been doing for over 13 years here on the Be Our Guest podcast. Now, before we get rolling today, I do want to apologize. Yes, this is Mike Rallman. I can present my ID if you're watching the video. I know my voice is all messed up, but this is all I've got right now. It's been a week, as you guys know from the podcast, but we're going to be here. We're going to talk Disney. So as long as you can put up with my 8-year-old Mike voice for the next 35, 40 minutes, we'll all be good. I sure appreciate your patience with that. So joining me today, he's a friend that you see in our live chats all the time as we record the podcast. We're headed out to Cleveland talking to Justin. Justin, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mike. How are you? I know you're a little bit under the weather, but sound good nonetheless.
Doing wonderful, but you're killing me with the Marathon Weekend 2020 shirt because right now I can't run. In my shirt, that actual shirt that you're wearing, the full Marathon 2020 shirt, was on my chair for Friday morning to go for my run, the run that never happened because I ended up somewhere else. So you're killing me with that. But I love that you're a lizard and you're a runner. So how are things going for you?
Things are good. I wish I could run as many miles as you run every day, but when I do run, I run pretty quick.
We'll see. We love having you as a part of the Lizards, and I love having you on the show here today to talk about your spring break trip, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. But before we do that, I kind of want to hop in here and get some of your background because you're a Lizard. You run the Run Disney events. You are an annual pass holder. You're all in when it comes to the Walt Disney World Resort. So give us some background. Did it start for you as a kid? What's your backstory when it comes to the Disney destinations?
My parents took me to Disney probably, I think 1976 is the best I remember. And I don't remember it all that well, but I believe that we were there maybe New Year's at Magic Kingdom. Went back a couple other times. I think we were there in 83, right after Epcot opened. And don't really have that many more memories going back until we started taking our family there at about 2009. And at that point, we've never looked back, at least my son and my daughters. We went there in 2009. We stayed at the Polynesian. I think we went the following year. It was January. We went in 2009. Maybe we went the following February. We, I think, are on record for 3 of the coldest days in Orlando. So we did not get the use of the Poly pool, which was very disappointing. Yes, and then when the economy was not doing so well, I remember taking my son to Port Orleans French Quarters when Disney offered the buy four get three free.
Those were
Uh,
the days. Yes, I remember that offer. Yes.
yes, so that really gave me an opportunity. So we were there for 7 days, and that gave me an opportunity without anybody else. And my son, basically in a stroller, I think he was 5 or 6 years old, to do what we wanted to do and kind of explore. And I think I really self-taught myself a lot at that point.
So
So
let me ask you this, because I think we're kind of a lot alike, just from what I've heard from you, and inferring from your stuff, the information you sent me. When you went down in 2009, kind of for that restart with where you're the adult and you can kind of see how this is all working. What was it? What was it for you that kind of hooked you to the destination? Because for me, when I look back to when I first started going as an adult, it wasn't so much, the rides. Like it wasn't like, oh, Jungle Cruise was so great or Pirates was awesome or Splash Mountain. What it was for me, it was the whole idea of Walt Disney World was basically its own city. It was the infrastructure. It was the bus systems that continually get guests from point A to point B, boats running all over the place, monorails, just for me, it was almost logistics that just blew me away. And it's every time I go down, I'm still blown away by how things happen so consistently at the resort. So, is there something about that that kind of stood out for you your first couple of trips?
well, you're taking the words really, Mike, right out of my mouth. Um, it's just a happy place. So I think I like that. There was no one ride because my kids were so small back then that we weren't able to do a lot of the things that we enjoy now. But you talk about logistics and the bus system. I'm fascinated with transportations and the idea of how many buses to all of these
Right.
resorts and how they move all of these people at the different times of the day. I don't understand it. It's mind-boggling how that happens. But all the different transportation systems. Back then, I remember my daughters were a little bit younger than my son. We were staying at the Poly, and the benefit, obviously, of one of the things of staying at the Poly is the proximity of the TTC to the Poly and being able to go to Epcot late in the evening. So I did that, and one of my best memories, frankly, is my son and I just being able to ride in the front of the monorail back
Yes.
then. So I know a lot of times you ask, what would you like to see Disney bring back? And I know there's, safety protocol, but that would be one of them.
Oh my gosh, I have the little co-pilot, because they gave it to Paige.
Yes,
She's now graduated with a master's degree, but she was a little kid at that point. She got it, but she didn't take care of it, so I have it. I kept it because I'm a monorail fan. But yeah, those, you'd wait there and it was the game you'd play. You'd ask the cast member at the TTC, "Hey, is anybody riding up front this next time around?" Well, if you just wait here, and it goes, well, actually, before we get in, because I want to get to the trip report, but I was going to ask you one thing. Kind of in this year leading up to the 50th anniversary celebration in October, if you could go back and Disney asked you, we can bring back one promotion, one parade, one experience. Is there something above all from the last 50 years that if you had the power to bring it back for the celebration, what would you bring back?
well, I don't know that I can give you one. Let me whittle this down real quickly, though. I know that everybody says Osborne Lights, and I agree. So let's take that one out of the equation because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Here, I just mentioned it, the buy four, get three free. I, I would like them to bring that back, but that's not realistic either. Uh, there are a few other little things that I really like. Frankly, you talk about the buses, and when you go to the Magic Kingdom, for whatever reason, this wouldn't even cost them anything. We don't get the little entry when you pull into the Magic Kingdom parking lot to start
Yeah.
the day
Yeah,
off
you
the
you mean
bus.
that little music that would kick in when you turn
Yes,
left into the bus bay? Yeah, dude.
correct.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the little things, right? Doesn't cost a cent, but same with me. I was like, yeah, let's go.
Right. The Magic Kingdom opening show, just the idea of the anticipation of it opening, I miss that. With obviously with COVID protocols nowadays, and we won't see that. I but there's two things. One, nighttime parade, Main Street Electrical Parade or Spectral Magic, something like that. I would really like to see that. And frankly, so I guess if something coming back, that would be my vote for it. One of my other really good memories of Disney and taking just my son there were Star Wars weekends at Hollywood Studios. Those were some of the most fun times. obviously maybe there's no need to have them, but I mean the idea of taking pictures with all these characters um, was really neat.
I think I killed Mallory with that because obviously she's only 13, so she never saw Star Wars weekends. We went down for those a few times when they still had them, and we were at the studios for May the 4th a couple weeks back, and we walked into Galaxy's Edge, Edge at about 7:30 before park closing, and all these people were congregating with their lightsabers and their robes and all the costumes for the big picture in front of the Millennium Falcon. And I was, I kept telling her, "Oh, you should have been here. They used to have these things called Star Wars weekends. They had the parade, you'd have the 501st, like what, stormtroopers of all sizes, all shapes, it was like, but yeah, it was a little taste of that, but you're right. I mean, those times gone by, and you mentioned the parade, and it's funny because if you look back to, like you say like 2010, 2008, 2012, I think we all as Disney fans just always assumed that our night in the Magic Kingdom would always end with some kind of an evening parade followed by fireworks, right? I mean, I never ever thought that one of those things would not be a part of my evening. It was just the bookend. Like you said, you would have the welcome show in the morning, rope drop, do all your fun stuff, go back to the pool midday, come back, have dinner at the park, ride a bunch of rides. Once it gets dark, have a blast, sit down, watch Spectro or Main Street Electrical Parade, watch Wishes or whatever's going on, maybe do another hour of rides after that. And that was a day. And I just never thought that would change. And I know we're in a different world situation right now, but I do hope, and I think it could happen. Just the Magic Kingdom is more magical with a nighttime parade. I'm right with you. I hope that comes back in some fashion at some point.
Me as well.
All right, so let's hop into your trip because we got a lot to talk about here, and I want to start off. You guys went down over spring break, so kind of set up this trip. How did you guys decide that you were going to Walt Disney World? Why'd you pick spring break? Was it because of the kids' school? How'd that all work out?
Well, 4 weeks prior to going, we weren't going to Walt Disney World. We were supposed to go to South Florida on a beach vacation. Given the current COVID protocols, my wife is a nurse, and she's pretty strict about maintaining social distancing. And where we were going to go, we were going to end up going out to restaurants if we wanted to have an enjoyable time. That was not her cup of tea. And she texted me one day from work and said, "I don't think we can go. We need to cancel the vacation." I was like, "We can't do this." Frankly, though, always knew that this could be a possibility that would happen. Back in January, I think Disney came out with some AP holder pretty good discounts for rooms. And I mean, one of the beauties of Disney is you can cancel a reservation, 5 days in advance or 30 days in advance if it's a package. So to put down a small deposit, I made a reservation at Yacht Club just in case, because I always thought that if this didn't work out where we were going to go, that this could work out because you don't need to sit down in a restaurant at Disney. So she tells me that she doesn't want to go. I'm like, "Hey, how about we go to Disney and stay at a nice resort?" Often when I go, and a lot of times I'll just take our children, we'll stay at Pop Century because we're in the parks most of the time. There's no reason, and I would never go to a nicer resort without my wife. So
good man. That's exactly right. That's what I do too.
Yeah, and I feel guilty. So I had said to my wife, "Let's go. How about if we go to Disney, stay at a nice resort, and we won't go to the parks? We'll just stay at the resort." And I knew that we had this yacht club, so we'll just go to Stormalong Bay. She says, and I knew then she was into it. She says, "No, we can't go to Disney and not go to the parks." So I knew right away then that she was into it was all right to go, which made me feel good. So I have an AP, as you've already mentioned. My kids don't have passes. My plan was always the next time we went back to Disney to get my son, depending on when he went, new APs. That didn't work out because of COVID. So, and obviously APs aren't offered if you don't have it already. So we decided that we would just go to a park, one park a day, and just go into the parks once. My wife is not a big fan of Hollywood Studios, given that there's no shows there. She really likes the Beauty and the Beast show, but it's not there.
Whoa! That's her number one.
Well,
thank your wife for being a nurse, because I have all respect for nurses after all the stuff I went through the past week. But Beauty and the Beast was the reason she went to the studio. She's the person. I'm just joking. That's so funny. I love it. Though. That's
Yeah, no, I think there were other things that she liked there or whatever, but she's not into the other attractions. The only thing she'd probably do is Toy Story Mania there. So she was like, "Hey, you take the kids, to Hollywood Studios, and I'll go to the other parks." So that's kind of what led us to going here, is canceling and being able to have counter service at Disney.
okay. Okay. So and it makes it you're comfortable there too. Like what you're getting at Walt Disney World. You have experience there. It's not such a crapshoot as to when you're outside. I mean, we talk about Walt Disney World being a bubble. It's not super perfectly safe or anything, but there's expectations. There's a lot more control that Disney can have over things than going to the beach, and going to, say like a Fort Myers or Miami or, something like that, Lauderdale. Let me ask you, so you guys ended up, but you did fly into South Florida, right? And then rented a car and headed up?
Yeah, so we had flights into Fort Myers, and we had a car rental because we were going to be going to South Florida. So we already had a car, which is a good thing because our flights. We flew on Frontier. They changed our flight times. I don't know, 3 weeks before, and we were supposed to come in a little bit later. So our car reservation was for maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we ended up getting in at 10:30 in the morning. So I was worried about what would happen because I was going to be there 7 hours earlier. So it all worked out. We ended up renting a car, $450. If we would have called, 4 weeks before, and that's what I had tried to do, is change the reservation. It was $1,200 to rent a
Oh,
car.
man.
So yeah, so we rented the car. We drove up to Orlando. I've never done that before. Well, I shouldn't say that. I have driven from Orlando down to South Florida, but not in the idea that we were going to keep a car. For the first time ever, I experienced I-4 traffic. I mean, I've heard about I-4. I've never driven on it myself, and frankly, this made me appreciate the Magical Express all that much more. I'm very disappointed now, really, that they're not having that. I don't want to get off a flight and drive to Disney.
Me neither. And I don't want to take Uber, but we had to do that this past trip. It's not,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I spent $75 for a little bitty
yeah.
car. Yeah. Anyway, so, but you guys, and by the way, folks that haven't, I've done it the opposite direction. We drove to Miami for a cruise. On the map, you think it's real close. It's the most boring drive from Orlando to South Florida. And I know Michelle, everybody that lives in South Florida, no, not where you live is boring. That highway, I think it's 95, is boring, or 75. I don't know what it is, but
75.
it's a longer drive, and it's not a lot of fun. So, well, I mean, but let me ask you this, because you said you usually don't have a car. Did the car come in handy, especially with with COVID going on? You had your own transportation source?
Well, one of the things, and you talk about this, and maybe depending on where we go with the show this evening, my daughters wanted to go to the outlets in Orlando.
Oh
So,
no. Oh no. You're hurting
so
me. I went
yeah,
once with Scott. Scott wanted to go after running a full marathon. Justin, Scott's like, we're getting cheap souvenirs. I was like, I will pay twice what Disney charges. Just get me out of this outlet mall. It was crazy. No, but what'd you guys think? I shouldn't just say
well,
that.
no. It was we. So one of the days when we went to or the day we had gone to Animal Kingdom, we went very early in the morning. We left Animal Kingdom around 12:30 and went to the Vineland outlets. I think it was. I don't know, 4 or 5 miles down I-4. Parking was a nightmare, as you have
Oh,
attested to previously, and my daughters wanted to go to. I think what they really wanted is the Lululemon outlet.
oh yeah, I know Lululemon. Trust me. Yes,
Yeah,
Mallory's
yeah.
into.
So we went there for a little bit, and I was really hungry. We hadn't had lunch. Annie Ann's pretzels is what we ended up eating, and it was truly miserable for myself and my son. We did not like it, and we so we had the car. We could go there. We drove the car back from there to Animal Kingdom. So that's the first time I've ever driven into a Disney park myself, because again, we're always on Disney transportation. So otherwise, did the car come in handy? Not. We didn't really need it. I would have been much happier if I could have changed my Frontier flight to fly into Orlando, but that wasn't possible. So I wasn't going to not go because I was going to be driving both ways. So it worked out. It was fine.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, it's the cars, man, it's the hot commodity right now. So if you've got one, everybody's excited about them right now. I mean, as we're recording this podcast, everybody's excited to get gas on the East Coast, but that looks like that's all
Yeah,
taken care of
right,
itself.
Mike. I mean, yeah, the one thing I guess where it came in handy, where I found it to be really good, was going to Disney Springs. That was probably the best part of it, because we didn't have to wait for a bus, and more so, we didn't have to wait for a bus leaving Disney Springs going back to the resort.
Right.
Um, those lines, there always seems to be lines for that. And right now with the buses, as you know, I think they only put 6 or 7 families on buses, so it's really limited, and the lines can be very long for buses.
Yep, it gives you another option too. You
Yep,
have more control, which is what everybody's looking for. Okay,
yep,
so I want to make sure we hit all the highlights in this to get all this in. So
yep.
you guys were at Yacht Club. I think you mentioned you had stayed at beach before, but never yacht. So give us the overall impressions of that hotel for this stay for spring break time.
Right. So we had walked through the yacht club lobby previously, and as I recall, it was much darker. I think they painted it. It's white now. I think it was much darker tones. So it was brighter. It was cherry. Frankly, it's just a mirror image
Right.
of the beach club. You're closer to Hollywood Studios instead of being closer to Epcot. Uh, so it didn't really matter where we always sit at Stormalong Bay. We always seem to sit on the yacht club side anyhow. So it didn't matter. It was fine. Our room at yacht club that we got was a great room. It was almost all the way towards the end, towards Hollywood Studios. It was a corner room, so it had windows facing, 2 different directions. We were overlooking Boardwalk, which was great. We were on the second floor. We were really happy, and it's nice there. Um, no complaints. We liked it a lot.
Can't wait to be back there myself in July. I'm just like, yeah, because I just like that feel. I just like the whole Crescent Lake board. To be honest, my favorite's Boardwalk, and I don't know why. I mean, they all seem the same to me. You got Stormalong Bay at Yacht and Beach, you got the Keister Coaster kind of pool over there, but it's I just like there's an energy to that corner of the resort, and I really enjoy it. Now, I don't think we mentioned, but you had your wife, and you also have 3 kids. You have twin daughters and a son, all teenagers. So was Yacht Club a hit for them? I'd imagine with Stormalong Bay, it was. I mean, what were their thoughts?
They enjoyed it. Again, we've been to Beach Club before, so we've been to Stormalong Bay. It was, yeah, certainly they all enjoyed it. Frankly, I think that my wife probably enjoyed it the most. She spent the most time at Stormalong Bay. We would venture out to go get lunches at places, or breakfast. And we, like I had said earlier, we went to Hollywood Studios one day, and she stayed at Stormalong Bay all day. Um, Going to Stormalong Bay, we can talk about that. Frankly, that might have been getting seats there. Might have been one of the toughest things to do on this vacation.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that. I mean, that's what I'm worried about for July. But you do what you got to do, and there's quiet pools. That's why I look at it. I mean, my kids, Mallory's 13. We want to be in Stormalong Bay, but if we have to go to a quiet pool for an hour or two, and then when our time's up, hop over to the main. Is that what you guys did, or was it? Did you have issues? We may as well talk about it real quick.
Yeah, no. So my wife learned after going to Stormalong Bay that first. So we got there on a Friday. We went to Hollywood Studios on Saturday, and my wife she walked down to Hollywood Studios with us, and then went back. The Stormalong Bay doesn't open until 10 a.m. She had no problem. She didn't have any other agenda, so she waited maybe for the pool to open. I think she thought the pool opened at 9, so she didn't have a problem then. But she saw the line form behind her, and as she was sitting in the pool, so she found out real quickly what you needed to do to get seats at Stormalong Bay. So we generally did not have a problem. A lot of times they made it so that if you needed to enter, nearest to Yacht Club, Beach Club. You couldn't come in by the Hurricane Hannah's entrance.
Yep.
Um, but but other than that, there was no problem. Sometimes they did give my wife our wristbands,
Mhm.
which was weird. You didn't have to tap your magic band to prove that you were staying there. Um, and she would come out and give us our wristbands, and then you could get in real easily.
Yeah, even a couple of
But
years ago, we were all down there. They scanned our magic bands to make sure we were staying there, and then they gave us a wristband. This was about 2 years ago. They did that.
right, right, yeah, likewise. Yeah, sometimes I thought you needed to give them like your firstborn
Yeah,
to get
exactly.
into some of
Just let
them.
me in the pool. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, limited capacity. Hopefully that stuff eases here as we go through the summer. Okay, I want to get into the park stuff. You guys first, you said you went to Hollywood Studios and you did get your boarding group and you got group number 8. I don't even know what that would feel like. The earliest I've ever gotten is 66. That was my
Yeah,
record so far. So, how was your day at the studios?
our day at the studios was great. So one of the things for all your listeners to know, at least as of right now, is the studios at whatever time they're opening, and I think now they open. I think they're opening at 9, and I believe that's what time they opened when we were there as well. They're just closing earlier now. They open the park at 8:15.
Right, right.
So
You can do 3 attractions by 9 o'clock right now if you go.
yeah, yeah. So really, what you want to do, and that was one of the beauties, frankly, of being down at Yacht Club because we could walk. If you're at another resort, they don't have those buses leave the resorts till a certain time. They also don't open up the parking lots until much later. So you have a huge advantage at Hollywood Studios, probably in Epcot as well, being at one of those Epcot area resorts. We were probably there in the line at 7:30 on that Saturday for that theoretically 8:15 early opening, and we got in and we went beehived right to Slinky Dog Dash.
Right.
Um, so we did that, and um, we went from there. I think we went to probably did the same thing every time. Went to Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster, some order like that. Um,
It's funny too because when you do that, people say, "Well, you're giving up." Like you're getting there so early, but you get that time back later in the day when you're really just like you're saying. You did, Slinky Dog Dash right away, immediately upon park opening. 10-minute wait for Rock and Roller Coaster, 15 for Toy Story Mania. You know, 1 hour later, and you're waiting probably 45 for Toy Story Mania, 60 for Rock and Roller Coaster. You've made up that time, and it's also when I'm down there, I'm amped up, right? I just want to get out there and start having fun. I'm at Walt Disney World. I don't want to, I'm a morning person though. I'm the only morning person in my family, which kind of kills me. But you get out there, you have fun, and then you're ahead of the wave. I kind of picture it as like this big wave of people, and the whole rest of the day, you're surfing on the front edge where everybody else is kind of trying to creep up on the wave. You know what I'm saying? And because you do this, but you've already knocked out some of those things. And if you want to do them again, maybe a second or third time, great, but you're not waiting for your first time to ride Slinky Dog Dash at 75 minutes. It really does pay off.
Yeah, if I can give any advice to anybody, get to the parks early. Even though you may not be able to get up early, you will have plenty of time later in the day to go back, as we did that day. We went back to the pool. And then again, we did go back to the parks in the evening, and we rode. We didn't do Slinky Dog. Slinky Dog, once the first thing in the morning, it builds and it seems to stay pretty long all day. We actually on that day, and there was another. I went to Hollywood Studios and second time by myself. But on that day, Tower of Terror, in Tower of Terror right now, the lines seem to be really long because they're only seating people in like the first and third row, and then they're kind of staggered there. So we ended up doing Tower of Terror coming back later in the evening. And we did Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway 2 times. We did it once in the morning, once in the evening. We did Millennium Falcon twice so that everybody could be a pilot. Um, but but we did go on Tower of Terror, and it was a long line later in the evening, just basically like during park closing.
Right. Now, real quick, when you had a group number 8, were you on within the first hour? Were you on like by 10:30?
Yeah, we were on earlier than that. That group 8, I think, came up probably by 9:30.
Wow.
So frankly, being in a group that early isn't exactly what I want to do because that first hour and a half of park time to me is like I want to do everything that's going to be a standby. So a little later would have been fine, but frankly, again, we got to do Slinky Dog and Rock and Roller Coaster beforehand, so it was fine. And then it gave us a chance to have something to eat, which we don't eat necessarily the healthiest at the studios. I'm not a big fan of the food there,
Me neither.
so pretzels and popcorn for breakfast, but it works.
My dinner was a chili dog last time I was down there at Rosie's. So
Yeah,
yeah, definitely not the best dinner there. So maybe that led to what happened. I don't know. Everybody says, yeah, the chili dog and then going directly on Rock and Roller Coaster probably didn't help everything you had going on. Hey, we'll
yeah,
figure it out. Okay. Yeah, I want to ask you about the next day. So
yeah,
Sunday was a non-park day. You got up and you did a 10-mile run. I love running around Crescent Lake down to the studios and back along the boardwalk villas, right along the water, the Swan and Dolphin. So beautiful, especially first thing in the morning. But walk us through this day. If you know you're not going to the parks, it's
yeah.
kind of relaxing. So how did you kind of decide what you wanted to get done this day? It was just kind of as things came up.
Yeah, so this is where this trip is different from other trips, because on all the other trips basically that we go on, we're going to a park every day. Frankly, I'd gone with my daughters back in the summer in August, about a week after you were there, this past August, and we could only get 7-day tickets for my daughters, but we were there for I guess it was 8 days. So we didn't have a park day for one of them, and of course, I was not going to buy just one park day. So we
Right.
did a pool day, and I got to tell you that it was one of the best days, frankly, of that trip with them, of not having to wake up super early and rush around. I mean, I woke up early anyhow because it was really hot back in August, just so that I could go running. But they got to sleep in a little bit, and we got to do what we wanted to do. Frankly, back then, I think we went to Boardwalk Bakery. Um, to get breakfast. But this day, so again, we got up and we decided to take the Skyliner over to the Riviera to go to Primo Pato.
Yes.
Um, Not because there was anything so good about the food, because we ended up getting Mickey waffles and bacon, I think. But the whole idea of just being able to go over and get on the Skyliner, it was nice. The one thing about that, when we went there, we mobile ordered basically from the Skyliner, and hit we're here as we were walking up. But getting back from the Riviera in the morning, that's a difficult task because you have everybody coming from Caribbean Beach and Art of Animation and Pop Century, who are
Yeah.
all coming to that station. They're all wanting to go to Epcot. There are no empty Skyliners to get on.
Right.
So So I thought about this and I'm like, you know what? We just have to take the Skyliner over to Caribbean Beach and get on there. That was probably a mistake. I think I wasted a lot of time doing that because the line over Caribbean Beach was so long because of all those people.
It's feeding that. Yeah. That
Yeah,
line that you're never getting in. Yeah, exactly.
right. So because nobody's coming over there at that time to get off at Riviera. So
No, but those are the best days though, when you don't when you can just kind of just like you said, ride this, because that happened to us when we were down there this past couple of weeks. We didn't have park tickets for Thursday through Sunday because Mallory wasn't allowed in the parks during the competition. So I took same thing. I took Pam over. We rode the Skyliner just because she'd never been on it, but we got caught the same way. We ended up at Caribbean Beach, got in a long line. I was like, shouldn't have done that. But I knew better, but the guy even told me, really, you're going to get in a line over there. I'm like, we just want to ride the Skyliner. We're not in a hurry. And yeah, got caught up in that. Okay, so what I like is though this day when it was time for dinner, you guys used World Showcase as like your food court, which is if you're staying at the yacht club, that's and you have
yeah,
passes, why not?
yeah,
Sounds good.
actually, I did this for lunch. I used
For
I
lunch.
used World Showcase for lunch. Dinner, we did seem to do the same thing every night, but we. So again, I'm the only one here who could get in because I have an annual pass. So I made an Epcot reservation. So um, listen, it wasn't necessarily that relaxing because I would go into Epcot and get my daughter's lunch, and I think on this day, um, just looking here, I went to the Mike. You can say this good, La Hacienda. Uh, the French bakery is in the back.
Patisserie. I just say the old patisserie in France. That's about as
Okay,
good as it gets.
okay, the patisserie. So got the patisserie for my daughters. I had Yorkshire fish and chips, and my son, actually I did that last, and my son had the China quick service place. So I was going back and forth.
You're a
I
good dad.
wasn't carrying
I'm
it
just
up.
saying, because I used to do that every
Thank
once
you.
off the page. You did it for the family. That you're a good dad.
Thank you. And I did this frankly on our arrival day too. I had done the same thing. So it was fine. I knew going in that this is maybe what I was going to have to do to make this work. Again, we weren't going to be sitting down at restaurants, so um, it worked out just fine. I definitely got my steps in that day.
That's the way I look at it. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So yeah, no. So we did that, and we after lunch we'd set. outside the International Gateway on those benches there. Just sat there, ate. Um, and For dinner, we went to Blaze at Disney Springs. So we drove over there. The one thing I have to say also about this time, I've never been to Disney spring break. Uh, this was probably overall, until the end of our trip, the best weather that we've had. I mean, we've been at in July, June, July. I mean, it's super hot, it's humid. We've been in September, it's rainy. We've been in December, in January, it's really cold. This weather here was ideal. The humidity wasn't too bad until the end of our trip. So I did make some changes. I call this trip. This is the trip of audibles.
That's, you know what? I mean, that's what you got to do. I mean, you have the experience, so you can make good decisions as they come up. I mean, I think that's the big difference between somebody like us that are listening to this podcast. All of us is a podcast family, as opposed to a first timer. You don't know. You can't anticipate things that'll pop up, especially with weather or crowds or some kind of a kid doesn't feel well. Don't push the day to the maximum. Take the pool day. It's going to be way better. And it makes sense. And let me ask you about Blaze, because it looks like you guys went there a couple times.
Did.
I mean, it's a good value, and here's what I like about Blaze. I have a picky family. You say Yorkshire fish, and I'm like dying because I did not get that when I was down there, and I wanted it, but nobody else in my family eats seafood, so I skipped it. I didn't want to make everybody else go over there. Blaze is a good option because everybody can kind of personalize their own thing. It's pretty safe, normal food for folks that don't want to get too crazy with their palates.
Yeah. So the reason I think we went to Blaze so much on this time down there is because often we'll be on the dining plan. Blaze is not a good deal if you're on the dining plan. It's a horrible deal. It's pretty inexpensive. So you're not getting, when you're on the dining plan, you want to feel like you're getting the most value, bang for your buck, and you're not doing that at Blaze. So it worked out good. Everybody likes it. My daughters love Blaze. There's nothing not to like about it. So yeah, it worked out really well.
So I'm scanning through because I want to make sure we get this all in, and we're a little bit long, but
sorry.
You guys, no, it's me. Because my voice is going away, but you guys did Animal Kingdom the next day, and this was the day where you ended up going to the outlets later on in the day. You went there in the morning. When you're down there and you say you have good weather, I think Animal Kingdom lends itself to a time when there's good weather. It's such a better park when it's not miserably hot and humid. How did you guys feel? I mean, because you hopped out later to go over to the outlets, it looks like, but was it a good day? I mean, you guys got on the Flight of Passage and Navi River Journey and stuff like that. You got Pandora things done. How was that day?
This was some of the best weather again that we've ever had for Animal Kingdom. It always seems like when we're at Animal Kingdom, it's either raining or super hot.
For real,
so it was the weather. The weather was really good. We did get on Flight of Passage. We got out of Yacht Club on the second bus in the morning. The line for Flight of Passage extended all the way back to the bridge that comes out of Lake Africa.
Mm-hmm.
That newer bridge that heads over to Pandora. The line was really far back early, but it seemed like they were just keeping everybody out of the queue. And it seems like that's what Disney's doing right now, is if there's an inside queue, they don't have people entering in the building. They keep them outside, or most of the queue is outside, and minimal is inside. So it went pretty quickly. I think we still probably had a 30-minute wait maybe, but again, we were in the park. That's the park that opened up at 8 in the morning. We were there probably by 7:15 again in the park. So we were off at, relatively, maybe it was a little bit later, but I think by 8:30. My wife joined us a little bit later. It worked out fine. And when we went back to Animal Kingdom later that afternoon, the Animal Kingdom emptied out. So it's really some of the best time we really had was after 4:00. We were there. We knew we were going to the Satuli Canteen for dinner. There was, we mobile ordered. There was no wait there. We went on Expedition Everest. We went on Kilimanjaro Safari again. When my daughters and I went on Expedition Everest, my son and wife went on the safari again. It's always different. At least that's the one thing about it. So we had a really good time at Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, Animal Kingdom is one of those parks. It's kind of counterintuitive of the other three. People don't want to be in that park, say the last 3 hours of operation. And if you're in there, you can get a lot done. So I think you know what you did. You rope drop it, and then you go back later before park closing. You can get so much done. But again, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's psychological, but we never go to Animal Kingdom towards the end of the day. We always go at rope drop, and then it gets hot because we always go, we're usually there during the hot times of the year. We're just like, I can't take this. I don't know. My wife years ago called Animal Kingdom hot. Like, she's the first person I ever heard say it. This was when Everest was being built. I remember us standing there. She's like, there's a new kind of hot. It's Animal Kingdom hot. We are dying. And it always stuck with me. And it's just one of those things, we go first thing and we're out of there by lunch because it is smoking hot. But I've been in there a couple times for media things. And, the last couple of hours, like you said, it's like you're a rock star. You can do whatever you want. Everybody's gone. And so, maybe people should think about that. Maybe hop to Animal Kingdom for the last 3 hours and you can get done what might have taken you 5 any other time.
Yeah, and we closed out the night at Animal Kingdom by, at least my daughters and I, we went on Flight of Passage the second time at the end of the evening with, there might have been a half an hour wait, but again, the park was closing. I think it closed at 8 p.m. There was nothing else that we were doing that evening. So it worked out fine. Again, we had a car there so we could drive back to Yacht Club. So it worked out well.
Another thing that I saw that you guys did, we need to hang out. My family loves ice cream at night. I'm trying to stay away from it right now because I'm not running. When I run, that's my excuse, right? I get to run, so I get the ice cream at night. You guys, you had a couple of times you had beaches and cream, like those 925 ADRs. So you can get in there and get that No Way Jose or whatever you're looking for. This time it looks like you headed out to the McDonald's that's right out there by Animal Kingdom. You got some ice cream. I'm only laughing because I'm picturing my McDonald's ice cream sundae and a No Way Jose. Like, I got the visual in my head, and you just put very bad. And I'm just thinking, yeah, that's it's kind of an unfair comparison.
No, here, the McDonald's sundae at the McDonald's on Buena Vista Disney makes the No Way Jose, or the cost of a No Way Jose, look like a good deal.
Oh, no.
This sundae there was no ice cream in it. It was ridiculous. My daughters really wanted a chocolate vanilla swirl at Animal Kingdom. There's the truck that's back in by Expedition Everest. It looks like a truck or whatever. Kasuri, I don't remember what it is, but they only have ice cream, at least right now, that's themed towards Raya and I don't know where that is.
The Last Dragon movie. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they didn't have that. So they were very disappointed. So I'm like, okay, we can stop and we can get McDonald's this night. But we did go to Beaches and Cream quite often. And frankly, you talk about the fishes and chips and Beaches and Cream. A lot of times when I'm down at Disney, I'm there for race weekends, whatever the case might be. If I'm there for a race weekend, the last thing I'm going to really eat for sure is fish and chips, as badly as I want it. And depending on when I'm there, Beaches and Cream. It's unfortunate that Beaches and Cream, the window isn't open right now, and you have to have a reservation.
Agreed. This is not the time to take that window out. Come on.
I don't understand it. I don't know why social distancing. We were there over the summer, and it was opened, and it seemed to work out just fine. But this was the first time. So when we did go to Beaches and Cream, and it was really easy because we're staying right there. We did always generally request an outside table, except our last night. We did go to Magic Kingdom on our last day there, and we went over there, and it was cold that day. So again, back when we made some changes to our schedule, we did sit inside. That was the only time we did sit inside then at Beaches and Cream, but no issues.
Okay, so I'm just picking through a few other things in here. So now, with the dining outside, because there's still people that are in this situation. They're easing their way back into getting out there, vacationing, but eating outside is a great compromise. I like that your wife said that, you could go, but hey, it's a little safer to be outside. Was it any kind of a challenge? Did you find any places where it was harder than others to talk to the host or hostess and get a table? Or it sounds like you did a lot of counter service, so you could just kind of grab it and sit where you like on a bench or, something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, we did all counter service. There was really no issues, except really, Beaches and Cream, where we did do a sit down. We did sit inside. Also, that same Magic Kingdom evening at Cosmic Rays. It was pretty late. There was really nobody in there, so we were far away from people. we had lunch also over at Cosmic Rays. So we did sit outside on the Tomorrowland Speedway side for lunch, but really no issues and no issues finding tables.
Okay, so I got to ask you about this because my wife brought a quick story. So the next day, you guys took another kind of down day, did Stormalong Bay, went over to Hollywood Studios, Disney Springs, and it looks like you guys had STK. Okay, so I don't think we've ever talked about STK on the show as long as it's been around, a few years now. But when we were down there for the cheerleading trip, we were staying, we did Disney Springs each night because we just needed something to do to walk around. And my wife and I ate at Paradiso 37, and we're just walking around to get a dessert or something. And my wife says, she turns to me, she says, "Do you hear that?" I'm like, yeah, I kind of do. She's like, "That's the song Into Club by 50 Cent. I'm like, where is that coming from? It was coming from STK, like up on the top of the building. They were playing like full on club music. So I kind of tried to explain to her. I said, I've never had STK, but I have heard I've heard like Len Testa talk about it when it first opened. It's like a steakhouse with like a nightclub in it. So what was the vibe there? I mean, I've just never been in there. I have no idea what STK is about because I heard Into Club coming from it.
Yeah, well, I guess I can't tell you that much because we went there for lunch and we sat outside.
Okay,
but,
so nothing. Okay.
Yeah, but the reason we did this, I do remember I called you over the summer when we came back from our August trip, and I'd gone to STK for lunch, and back then they had $10 burgers. And
That's right.
They also had like $10 hot dogs. One of my daughters really isn't a burger fan; she likes hot dogs, so they were $10. And I had read someplace that STK has like the best burger on property, especially for $10. Things taste better when they're priced right.
Oh, you're speaking the truth.
So I knew because I had looked at the menu here that they didn't have the $10 burgers anymore. They were now $15,
Exactly.
which wasn't so bad compared to a normal Disney burger. If we had gone to Deluxe Burger, it would have been pretty close to that too. But I remember these being really good. Unfortunately, they didn't have hot dogs anymore. So
Yeah.
one of my daughters was like, "I don't want anything here," and she went by herself over to Chicken Guy, which
Thank
she had
God.
never had before.
Thank God for Chicken Guy. It's always that bails you out. Same here.
Yep. So she got her chicken fingers over Chicken Guy and brought those up to SDK, which they probably had like a horrified look on their face that somebody was being Chicken Guy. But we were sitting outside right by the walkway. And the burgers were fine. I can't say that I would go back there for it. I kind of look at it. I value every minute that I'm at Disney. I kind of look at it like it was kind of a waste of time to do. But again, we had our car, so we didn't have to wait for the bus. So it was relatively quick to go there. So it worked out. I wouldn't necessarily do it again, but it was good memories from August.
Yeah, I got to give it. I want to go there for dinner some night just because it just seems too like not fancy. It just seems too I don't know, like hip for me. Like this 47-year-old dude from St. Louis, like I don't belong in STK if it's playing club music, but I'm like intrigued because we were walking by. My wife picked it up. She's like, I hear 50 Cent. I'm like, I think it's coming from STK. I'm not sure, but yeah, we'll have to check it out. Okay. So you mentioned, okay. So you did a couple more days. You guys did Epcot and then you did Magic Kingdom on your last full day.
Yes.
Let's just get that. Any highlights or anything that stood out from those days that you recall?
Going back real quickly to our Epcot day, we got in there, we went right to Test Track. My wife does not do Test Track. She went to Soarin'. The line for Soarin' grew really long. So we didn't do that until later that evening. When we did it later that evening, one of the things that I like to do if I'm on Soarin' is be in row B1. I don't want to see dangling feet.
I like
again, if we're going here, we'll wait. You just have to wait, 5 additional minutes to do it. It's like in the grand scheme of things, not a big deal. But they weren't letting people pass you. Again, it's the social distance. Normally,
right.
if you wait, they'll have you stand against the back wall and let people go past you. Well, they weren't willing to do that. But they said, we can get you on B1, but you have to ride first in the row that you're assigned here, which was like C2. So it was like, okay, that's fine. So we went on C2, and when we were done, they're like, okay, you guys can now move over to B1.
That's
so
way better. Yeah, that's way better.
So that worked out really good. It got really cool in the evening at Epcot. Of course, in the morning, it was actually very warm when we were at Epcot, very comfortable. It's like the weather forecast is wrong. Of course, by noon, 12:30, it got cool. I'm like, oh, better go back. So it's easy enough to go back to Yacht Club. Went and grabbed coats. As soon as I got back to Epcot, the sun was out and it was warm. So, you
Always.
know, of course that's what happened. But as the day went on there, it definitely did get cooler. For the first time ever, we had tried the maple popcorn over in Canada. That was a hit. It's actually a hit when you have $2 refills.
Yep.
Again, things taste better when they're
Yeah.
priced right.
We have our bucket from this past week.
Yeah,
Exactly.
my wife again. We were kind of getting tired of some of the foods we were eating, and maybe we just wanted a sit down meal. My wife had talked to a friend of hers who knew something about Orlando because her daughter goes to UCF, and suggested the apparently a Mexican restaurant that's over at Universal. So we're like, okay, we have a car. We've never been to Universal. We'll go to, I know this sounds crazy. This wasn't the night to do it. We should have done it the night before, but we didn't need all the time we had at Epcot this day. So anyhow, we were going to go over to City Walk. Well, our reservation was for 5:30. If you go over to Universal before 6 p.m., they have a $26 parking fee.
Whew, man.
Yes.
Yes.
Too much for my blood. So we
Thank-
pulled in. We pulled in. We drove over there. We pulled in. It's the first time I had ever seen Universal or any parts of it. They'd say it's $26. We're like, no, thank you. She's like, okay, just take this receipt and pull out. And we did, and we went back and we ate dinner at Epcot. So again, it was a wasted hour and a half, but lesson learned.
Oh yeah. I mean, you gave it a shot. I didn't know that because again, I never have a car. So
Right.
this is why I love this podcast. As much as, we have Pam who owns a travel agency, Ricky writes about everything, and I'm just kind of just typing all the stuff in all day. This is the stuff that's golden because that might save somebody, because back home, that's a fajitas for two and two Cokes.
And again, it makes you feel that much better when you go to Disney Springs, because even if you're not on Disney property staying there, there's no charge to go and park at Disney Springs.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was on the Friday and our last day there. The only thing I can tell you is our day. I went on the bus with my daughters there. My son and wife were a little lagging behind. We went right to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. We were on the first train of the day. The plan was generally from there to go to Peter Pan's flight. We did that. My wife and son had already met us there. They were on Peter Pan's flight, and ironically, they went on it twice. Then we headed over. The idea is then to go over to the mountains. I don't know what it is with our luck or lack thereof, but in that morning on whatever April 2nd, Splash, Big Thunder, and Space Mountain were all down.
Oof, that makes everything bad in the whole park.
That makes everything bad. So our idea was, okay, well, we'll go over to Pirates. Well, Pirates was a 60-minute wait already at that point. So again, as I said, this is a trip of audibles. We went to, I think we went over to Haunted Mansion. Instead of just doing things, or Haunted Mansion did Winnie the Pooh. We just started doing things that didn't have as long rides. We did Small World. Like I would never do Small World early in the morning. And Small World has long waits right now too, because they're only seating like the row 1 and row 4 or 5.
Yep.
So we did Under the Seas. We did Tomorrowland Speedway, breakfast at Sleepy Hollow. I remember that day. I had a corn dog from Sleepy Hollow for lunch. I've always wanted to get that. Again, not a good thing on the dining plan, or a race weekend. So I did that.
Was it good? Because that was one of the things I meant to get when I was down last week and I didn't. Was it okay? I mean,
I would get it again.
okay.
Yeah, I would get it again. It got cooler as that day went on. It got cooler. Bought my wife a Mickey Mouse sweatshirt, her first one ever. So, either we were really desperate, or she wanted the Mickey Mouse sweatshirt.
you got to think about all the money you've spent on your Run Disney shirts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So no, there's nothing else. Again, the mountain's going down, but otherwise, the difference again in this day. Normally, we would take breaks as well, but going back to the pool it was cold this day. If it had been warm, we probably wouldn't have gone back to the pool anyhow, because getting into Stormalong Bay, you'd have to stand in line because there's no chairs available. So we knew going in, and we didn't have park hoppers. We were staying at these parks and only going once. So not having the park hopper to a degree makes it easier. Kind of, you're not wishing you were someplace else.
Right.
So it was fine.
It is kind of weird though when you're an annual pass holder without a park hopper. When you're like, because I'm in the same situation you are right now. I have an annual pass, but I was going down for, like you said, like race weekends and, a couple the Give Kids the World thing. My family didn't go. So it didn't make sense for everybody else to renew at the time. So now I'm buying tickets for the family, but I have an annual pass. So I did buy park hoppers for them for the summer just because, I want to hop because I can. And then if they couldn't, I'd be kind of bummed. But you're right. What it does, it makes you focus on the park that day with no regrets, because when you can go anywhere, you're always, it's the same thing. And, maybe you can speak to this real quick before we get out of here. But when you take a pool day or a non-park day, those can be the best days ever, but you have to buy into it 100%, because I did that a couple times. Like when I first started getting into Disney, we would take days at like Pop Century and hang out at the pool. We go play putt putt, stuff like that. We go to Disney Springs. We said, we're not going to the parks this day. And the thing was, I was such a big parks fan at that time that like, as soon as I saw like a bus going to the Magic Kingdom, I was just like, oh, I wonder what's going on at the Magic Kingdom, or I should be going to Epcot, and I was always wondering, like, it was one of those things like the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. Once you embrace the pool day and don't worry about what's going on at the parks, you can really enjoy it. And a lot of times what I've seen happen with me is I'll, halfway through the day, we'll go to a park instead of staying staying out of the parks for the whole day. I'll get in Epcot at like 4:00 in the afternoon. It's busy. It's hot. I'm waiting, an hour for a ride that I've done 100 times. And I'm thinking, you know what? I should have stayed at the pool. I should have just stayed and just relaxed for a day and went on vacation. So, I mean, do you find that like you really have to buy into the non-park day to really enjoy it? You can't regret being in the parks.
Well, I think this would be probably a better question for my kids, seeing as I went to Epcot every day or Hollywood Studios to go get them lunch.
Yes.
Given this, but yes, again, there's something to be said about, if you're staying at a nice resort, just spending time at that resort. And that was one of the things where this whole thing started. Is or at least I didn't need to go to the parks. I would have been fine just staying at our resort and going around, frankly, to other resorts or
Right.
Disney Springs. I could do it. We go enough. I know this sounds repetitive from other shows you've had, but we go enough that we have it through our system that we don't have to go every day. When we go, we want to try to do as much as possible. I think it's something mental, especially first thing in the morning. When we go in the morning for that first 2 hours, we're on a mission.
Well, yeah, because you have all the energy, and it's just I don't know, it's the Disney stuff, right? It's the magic, it's the pixie dust, whatever you want to call it. But man, when you're there, when that park opens, you just have there's nothing better. You have endless energy, but then lunchtime hits and you start dragging.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we took breaks when we were there at the park, since we stayed basically all day, except at our Hollywood Studios day. We would, we'd take breaks. We'd sit down at benches and people watch, and it was fine. It worked out really well.
That's awesome.
It was good.
Last question. You
Yeah.
you guys went to the premium outlet. You went to the outlet mall again a second time.
Well, this day didn't go exactly as planned. I got to tell you, Mike. And I don't. Let me tell you real quickly here. It ended well. Let me tell you the story, but it ended well. So 2 different times I had made Rise of the Resistance boarding groups just for myself. I had done this back on Wednesday of our trip, and basically I planned on doing the same thing on Saturday. I'm like, okay, I have the annual pass. We have some time. We don't have to be out of here till 11. What are we going to do? And our flight didn't leave until 8:45 out of Fort Myers. So we didn't necessarily know what we were going to do. By the way, back on that Wednesday when I went to Hollywood Studios, I had a really high boarding group for Rise of Resistance, and I went again right to Slinky Dog, went to Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, and then did my Rise boarding group, and was done with all that by 9:30, 9:45. So that was a good morning right away for, that was a day for most people, I think. So I was going to try to do that same thing on that Saturday, but I woke up, got my boarding group, cleaning up, putting things in a suitcase before I go, and cannot locate my wedding ring, which I put in the safe.
I didn't even want to bring that up because that just seems dramatic.
I understand. Like I told you, it ended well. Otherwise, I wouldn't do this. I could not find it for the life of me. I file a report with Disney that my wedding ring's missing, and like the whole trip is now like ruined because my wedding ring's missing. Needless to say, the wedding ring appeared when my wife wanted to go show her ID in Fort Myers at the airport. It was in a little pouch that she had. I don't remember how it got into that little
I was
pouch,
gonna say, how
but
did it get there? That's
I
crazy.
don't I don't know, but it was there. So that part ended well. Nonetheless, it was now late. We had some waffles from the beach club marketplace for breakfast, and it was like, what are we going to do before we go? My daughters wanted to go back to some of the stores that they weren't able to get into because there's queues and lines at the outlet mall. So we're like, okay, let's go back here. So we went back there, and we actually ended up going into like the Nike outlet, and yeah, we got a lot of stuff. It actually was pretty good. It worked out well. Um, so we went there, and then to end things, we're like, we need to eat lunch before we go. So we went back to Disney Springs and had Blaze, of course, that before we left. So it it that last time, that's how we ended up at the premium outlets. It was not a restful day, to say the least, because I'm thinking again the whole time I've lost my wedding ring, but
Right.
it worked out. Found it.
Well, and, it gave you something to
Found
do
it there.
because you got to
Yeah.
kill the time. There you go. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you got to have. Oh my gosh, I'm glad that happened. So, well,
Yeah.
hey, this was we said we're going to talk for 30 minutes. We almost talked for an hour because it's so much
I'm
fun. You guys,
sorry.
no, no, don't be sorry. I love diving into trips like this because I like hearing the decision making because like you said, you had a lot of audibles. You have the experience to make good decisions, and stayed at a great resort, but you got a lot done. But you were also accommodating, your wife's concerns with eating outside, which I think is a concern for a lot of our listeners right now. I think this show's gonna really help a lot of folks moving forward here in the spring and summer. Real quick though, before we dive out of here, what's next for you guys? You have anything? I'm sure you have something like unofficially on the
Uh,
plan. Like, what do
un,
you guys do next?
yeah, unofficially, hopefully maybe July 4th. So we might be there right when we might be there when you're there. I think you're coming a little bit later if we go like early July.
Yep.
Um, so maybe then, hopefully maybe we'll go back. Christmas time as well. My wife, as I said, my wife's a nurse, and she seems to always be working on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Nothing's open, so it's easy to go to Disney. Everything's closed, and but hopefully in July. It'd be nice if we had those APs. It gets expensive right now
You're
with
not
no
kidding.
APs.
I know. I'm
Yeah,
telling you. I just had to buy the tickets to make theme park reservations. I was like, "Whew, that hurts."
yeah,
You do what you do. That's why you work hard. So,
right.
hey, if we're down there at the same time, we'll have to have a pizza over at Blaze. That'd be great.
Okay. All right. Sounds
All
good.
right.
It's a deal.
All right, Justin. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you starting the week with us. And again, thanks for all the tips you shared with us today.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure being here.
All right. Don't forget today's show brought to you by the Magic for Less Travel. Check out all the great services they offer you for your next Disney vacation, whether it's Walt Disney World, Disneyland's coming back around. We're open again, hopefully to everybody here very soon. Disney Cruise Line. Hey, there's a fifth ship coming. I don't know if you heard about the Wish. It's coming on soon. And of course, Adventures by Disney. Just drop by the Magic for Less, fill out that quote form while you're there. Mention the show, and you and I'll be planning a great vacation together. Again, it's a great way to support the show. Check them out over at themagicforless.com. A free way to support the show is just use our Amazon affiliate link, beourguestpodcast.com/Amazon. It's one extra click and it really does help. And finally, a huge shout out to our patrons like Justin. Thank you, Justin, for being a patron. I appreciate that. You guys are allowing us to keep this show going every week, 3 shows a week, and the Sunday night show. And Justin gets to hear, I don't know if he likes it or not, but it does come to him. He gets Mike in the Midwest every Thursday. Just a crazy collection of stories of me growing up, and who knows what this week will be. But I try to have fun with that, and I appreciate each and every one of our patrons for allowing us to keep this show going during these crazy times that we're in right now. If you'd like more information on that, just visit patreon.com/beourguestpodcast. Give us a follow on the social media, Instagram and Twitter at beourguestmike and at beourguestpod. And of course, subscribe to the show on Facebook and YouTube. And every time we go live to record a show, you'll get a notification. And you can come over and chat with us and join us during these live recordings. One more thing, we'll be together again this coming Sunday night, 6 nights from today, and we'll be taking your phone calls. So join us on Facebook and YouTube Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. We take your calls for an hour and just have a blast. So join us for that as well. All right, until then, we will be back again on Wednesday with more of your listener questions. But until then, for Justin in Cleveland, I'm Mike in Missouri. Wishing you a great Monday. Time to get back to work, and we'll see you real soon. We made it. That was
Thanks. Sorry it was so long.
no, hey, I couldn't stop because that was good stuff. We do a lot of the same stuff. we
We,
we would travel well together.
every time I listen to you, and you say that, I'm like, yeah, exactly alike.
Because like I like what I like. You know what I'm saying? Like people are always like, why do you do the same things? Like I like what I like. Like just it works, and
Right.
yeah, and I don't like to spend money that I don't have to. Because like Scott and I are really good friends. Like we are like best
Sure.
like we are almost like we're brothers. But man, like when it comes to dining, he'll go to all these fancy places like every single night. He's always going to like Narcoossee's or California Grill. And I'm just like, dude, I could just go get a burger and like, I could get a fish basket at Columbia Harbor House and it would taste just as good as Narcoossee's to me. And it's like,
Well, yeah, yeah. One of the things is people say you go to Disney, it's so expensive. And frankly, overall, frankly, going to Disney in this trip, where we were going to go to Marco Island. We were going to spend twice as much in our room, and dinners were going to be super expensive. This was half the price of
right.
of going there. So it isn't so expensive. It doesn't have to be. And I'm not into going and dining. I guess at Disney.
Yeah, I mean, like even when we do our ADRs, like I'm getting ready to make some ADRs for us for the summer. Like, we'll do like 50s prime time or we'll do sci-fi. Just I've never been to Brown Derby, never been to California Grill. It's too fancy for us. Like we just don't. And I know that's everybody's got their things. Like I spend my money on sneakers. Like people are like,
Right.
you spend $125 on a pair of tennis shoes. Yeah, well, yeah, because I wear them out. But everybody's got their thing. But yeah, you and I we're so much alike in that instance. So yeah, hope
Yeah.
you're down there while we're there. We're there. We get there on the 7th, and we're there till the 15th. So
Yeah,
we're
we're
there.
scheduled from the 2nd through the 9th.
Oh,
So
cool.
I'll let you know. And Mike, the other thing is, let me tell you, I got to start utilizing your services. I know I looked for some Run Disney race that wouldn't have happened anyhow a while back. But I make these trips not knowing if we're going to go, and I feel so badly if you're going to do the work and making it, and then I call up and or text you or email you and say, cancel.
Don't worry. It's part of the job. It's not a big deal. I'd
All
appreciate
right,
it. It's great. Where are you guys staying in July?
Pop.
Pop. Okay, so we'll be at
Yeah,
Yacht for the first part.
yeah.
This is the bad thing. We're staying at Yacht for the first night, 4 nights, and then we're staying at Caribbean Beach. Like we're going the wrong way, but we had a contest at the Magic for Less for who booked the most trips for the month of January, and
Okay.
so I won. So it was,
Congratulations.
yeah, it was. I like competition. That's how I've always been my whole life. But yeah, so we could only go like during this window, and with Mallory's cheer, we could only like go these certain amount of days. So yeah, we're going from Yacht Club to Caribbean Beach, which Caribbean Beach, nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's
Right.
great, but Yacht Club going from there, it's gonna be a little tough, but we'll be fine. So yeah, we'll definitely have to meet up while we're down there.
I'll let you know. There was one time actually when that I saw you when Toy Story Land opened up. You were there. I don't know if you're staying at Beach Club, Yacht Club, or Boardwalk or whatever. You were running.
I was staying for the Toy Story thing. We were at Grand Floridian, I think.
Well, like the second day, because I went there the second day, third day it opened, something like that. And I remember, I don't know if you remember, then they opened the parks like super early in the morning, maybe like 6 a.m. And I remember walking with one of my daughters down there, and I'm like, "Hi, Mike," but you were running, and so you must have been over there because it was early.
Yeah, you know what? Oh, you know what it was? I stayed for the I only stayed one night at the Grand for the media thing, and then because they did something in the Grand Floridian Convention Center, then took us over to ride Slinky Dog. But yeah, oh yeah, we were staying at that was the time we were staying at Yacht because my wife came down and my daughters the next day.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was the time their flight got diverted to Jacksonville, and they were freaking out, and I was freaking. Oh god, that was terrible. Because that was the first time they'd ever been caught like in a storm where they closed Orlando, and
Okay.
so they couldn't land. Oh,
Oh, that's not good. That's not
freaking
a good
out.
feeling. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well,
So,
I am going to
all right.
edit the thing and get it up, and it'll be out there for Monday.
Okay, Mike. Hope you're feeling better.
I'm hanging in. This helped a lot. This was a lot of fun. It took my
Okay.
mind off it for an hour, so that was
Okay.
gold. I appreciate it, buddy. Thanks,
All
Justin.
right.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Mike.
Okay, bye
Bye-bye.
bye.